afternoon. It's Pamela from Yorkshire in the north of England. Still riddled with allergy problems with the hay fever and everything. So sorry if I start sniffling and what have you. Now, I did the free mouse pattern that I was showing you the other day, and it's Little Mouse Lee, which was from the website lovelycraft.com, and it is by My Crochet Wonders. So that one there. Now, can't decide if I think it's weird or cute. Some ways of looking at it, it's cute. Some ways it's weird. Anyway, here you go. So this is the little mouse. Only he's not so little. So you'll have to tell me, weird or cute? So he's got a strange nose. I think that's the bit that's making him look weird, actually. But anyway, to tell me what you think. So he's got a pair of dungarees on which are not fastened onto the item. As I said the other day, if I were to do this again, I'd probably just crochet that in as I go along. I did make a gap in them so the legs could go through, because on the pattern the legs are attached to the dungarees. I couldn't really understand the point of having them attached to the dungarees if they're removable. So I thought, right, they can be fully removable, so they do come off over the legs. I've put buttons on mine for where the braces are at the front. These were a pack I got from Etsy. I can't tell you who they were from exactly. But yeah, they've both got a similar colourway. Reminds me a little bit of Wimbledon colours, does this? So it may be a tennis mouse. Anyway, done that. I didn't bother with the French knots on the dungarees. I was a bit fed up of it by then, to be honest, so I didn't bother with those. Anyway, I shall tell you what I used. So for the body of them, I'm still using these that's easier on my hands, the Serdar cotton and acrylic mixers. So the body is Serdar Snugly Replay double knitting 50g balls in Whisket White. The dungarees are Serdar Snugly Replay DK in Currant Fun. That one. The ears, nose and blush on the cheeks is Serdar Snugly Replay DK in Mauve May M. I thought that was acceptable as a pinky shade for in the ears. And then the bow tie I've done in Serdar Stories double knitting in the colour Picnic. And I've just used a little bit of black for the eyebrows, which I used Serdar Stories double knitting in Silent Disco. That's that one. So yes, there he is in all his glory. I don't think it looks that bad. I used a 9mm eye. They were smaller on the pattern, but I thought this one was more in proportion to the mouse. And also I used 2.75mm hook, which, as you'll probably know by now, is my favourite hook for amigurumi. So yes, he's done. I don't think there's anything else to say about him really. He is easy to make, but I'm making everything hard going for myself at the moment. You know, it feels like a bit of a chore. I think that's because of all the sneezing, and I just don't seem to be able to settle to anything. But there we go. Anyway, I don't want to put you off the pattern, but I don't think it's the best pattern ever, or the result is the best result ever. But it's free. You don't have to print it off. You can do it from your tablet or your computer. So it's always worth a go when it's a free one. If you've got the yarn for it, go for it. So that's that. I'm still on with Vera, and I what's the other thing? I'm going to be doing a pattern test this weekend. And I want to do my mouse for Ellen's, the proper mouse that I'm doing, not this one, for Ellen at Mousy Mates Pod. She's doing the mouse along Mal, so I want to do the proper one for that. I may have a few days off of doing amigurumis after that, because I'm feeling the urge to do something different, you know, like all these things I've been promising myself for so long, with like the cardigan that I've still got to do and things like that. So I don't know, I'll see how I feel. But at the moment, I'm struggling to set my mind to doing the amigurumi. Now, the other day when I made the video that didn't work out, I was telling you about where we went on Saturday. Now, if you're not interested in things that's not crochet, don't bother with this bit. But we went to a local, it's a local, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a gardens, basically. You can go to the gardens, and it's called Wentworth Castle Gardens, and it's in Barnsley, so where I'm from. And it's a fascinating story, really. I thought I'd tell you a bit about it, but because I've done a little video to go after this, and with pictures, and then I've also done a little bit of filming with like the bird song and what have you, if it comes out all right. We did go there with the intention of photographing some of my latest amigurumis, like the mushroom girl and the reindeer. I forgot to take them with me though, so that was that out, but we still obviously had a nice time there. It's got a lovely cafe. We had a spot of lunch and a piece of cake and what have you, and there's a nice bookshop in the back of the cafe as well, so there's plenty there. Anyway, this place came about because, now you have to bear with me now, because it's a bit of a long tale, but the second Earl of Strafford died in 1695. Now, one of his relatives, Thomas Wentworth, expected to inherit the family estate, and he thought it was his birthright, the title and the estate. Anyway, he instead left it to a man called Thomas Watson, who was a cousin in some stories and he's a nephew in others, so I don't know which one. It could be that he is Thomas Wentworth's cousin, that's where I could be getting confused. Anyway, the original estate is Wentworth Woodhouse, which is not far away. It's around about Rotherham. It's only about 6 miles, I think, from where this place is that we went to on Saturday. Anyway, the only thing he managed to get was one of the minor titles, which was the Barony of Raby. But he wanted the title. I mean, he didn't really accept that he'd lost the estate. He did have he was resentful about it for the rest of his life. But he really wanted the title of Earl of Strafford, which had died with this second Earl of Strafford. Because Thomas, not being this Thomas Watson who inherited the estate, not being that part of that particular family line, he couldn't have the title. However, in order to get the title, he had to be in possession of a large estate. In order to get an estate, he obviously bought one, so he bought Stainborough Hall, which is the site of the gardens that I visited on Saturday. Now, because he did that, and because he was in Queen Anne's favour, she recreated the Earl of Strafford and gave it to him. He'd been a soldier and a diplomat for William III and Queen Anne, so that's why she did it. She recreated it so he could become the Earl of Strafford, and he was the first Earl of Strafford, which has always been the bit that's confused me, because I've always thought, how can he be the first Earl of Strafford when the second Earl of Strafford had been before him and had died? It should have been the third Earl of Strafford, but that's because the title died with the second Earl. It was only recreated for Thomas Wentworth, which is why he was able to be called the first Earl of Strafford. Now, that's been a bit of a niggle with me for a while, that I've not known what all that's about. Anyway, he did make changes to the hall that was there, and he spent some time in Germany, and he liked the Baroque style, so he added some Baroque features to it. Now, the castle part, there is a castle at the top end of the garden, but it's not an old castle. It was actually built by Thomas Wentworth in order to get one-upmanship on his cousin or nephew or whatever down at Wentworth Woodhouse. There was this rivalry between them, you see, so they were constantly trying to get one up on the other. So he built this castle in the 1700s. Said, oh, I've got a castle, you know. So it was called Stainborough Castle. It was actually built as a ruined castle, and he, as far as I know, he used it for banquets. Anyway, at some point in the future after that, and I don't know exactly when, it was renamed Wentworth Castle, and it's what it's known as today, which is Wentworth Castle Gardens. Now, the house isn't actually owned by the estate anymore. That was sold, I think, in the 1940s to Barnsley Corporation, which is now Barnsley Council, and it's used as a college. There are certain days of the year when it's open to the public, but it's not part of what you actually go visit. The Castle Gardens are now actually owned by the National Trust, and that's who you deal with, and you just go see the grounds. There's always ongoing renovations with the gardens, because obviously they were left to go to rack and ruin for a few years, so it's a constant work in progress. They're absolutely beautiful, but there's still some work to be done. For instance, there's a Union Jack garden, and the last time we went there, they were still working on it, and they still are, so it's obviously a big job. Obviously, the Union Jack being our national flag, it's done out in like a series of pathways, and then the triangles in between to represent the Union Jack have got flower beds in them. You can't look at any of those at the moment because they're working on them. So that's that. Now, in the gardens, there's an obelisk, and it's a monument. Well, there's a plaque on it. It's in memorial. The plaque on it is in memorial to a lady called Lady Mary Wortley Montagu. Now, I still don't really know what connection she has to the Wentworth Castle Gardens and why the memorial to her is there, other than she was a favourite of Queen Anne, and obviously there's the connection with Queen Anne with Thomas Wentworth, so don't know what's going on there. Anyway, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu was she was very bright. She was witty, apparently. She was a writer and a poet. She was married to Edward Wortley Montagu, which is where she got her name from. During the course of the marriage, she did actually join him on a visit to the Ottoman Empire, which is like modern day Turkey. This is where she discovered how to combat smallpox. Smallpox at that time was a huge killer. It had epidemics, and we know all about them now. And if you did survive it, you usually were quite severely scarred because you had pus-filled, blisters on your skin. Well, in Turkey, she discovered that you could sort of be, although I don't think they used the word inoculations or immunisation, but she discovered that if, and it sounds quite disgusting, but this is what basically you're doing with your inoculations. If you cut a blister on an infected child and removed some of the pus, and then introduced it to an healthy child with, if you scratch the skin and then introduce the pus, they would get a mild dose of the illness, or whenever, you know, like they were in contact with it again, or they would, you know, like be immunised against it. Whatever, they didn't get the scarring that was involved, or death that was involved with up till that point. So she came back to England with this knowledge. She actually inoculated by doing this method with her own son. Now, bearing in mind, this was at a time when if a woman did something like that or came out with these ideas, she could quite happily have been divorced from Edward, or at worst, they could have had her put in an asylum for being absolutely barking. You know, she could have actually lost her freedom because of this. But thankfully, she didn't. And when there was another epidemic, I think that's when it was, she inoculated herself and her daughter with this same method. She also did the same for Queen Anne. So that, again, there's this joint connection, you know, between the few of them. So anyway, whatever, there is this memorial tour at Wentworth Castle Gardens. Now, I originally found out about this when we had a talk at the Women's Institute from the National Trust representative from the Castle Gardens. It's only, I say recently, it's probably more recently than that, come to light, a little bit further back, come to light that she did this. But as usual with history, she'd more or less been written out of it. The credit for immunisation against smallpox went to a man, but now we know different. I mean, he may have invented the actual, you know, more sophisticated vaccine, but she got the principle of how you would immunise yourself against smallpox. So, but obviously she got no credit for that until relatively recently. Whatever, for someone who was born in the 1600s and discovered this, I think in 1720, it was an amazing achievement for a woman at that time, bearing in mind that they should just sit there and look pretty, you know, pop out children, and, you know, just do all the, you know, like the sweet little things in life. She wasn't supposed to know about how to treat someone for smallpox. So it's quite an amazing story. Still not enough detail, if you ask me, known about it. I have gone rooting to find out why there's this connection with Wentworth Castle Gardens, and I can't find it. I've read loads of stuff. So it's, like I say, at least we know about it now. But I say it's because for like 300 years or whatever, you know, it was as if she never even did it, you know. But anyway, we know about it now. So I think that's as much as I can tell you about that. But it does feature on my little video, does the obelisk in the garden, which has got a plaque for Lady Wortley Montagu on it. I hope you find it interesting. Like I say, if you've stuck with me to this far, you must be interested in it. I hope you like it. I've got some more things I want to tell you about, but like I say the other day when the video didn't work for me, but I'll save that for another time, because to be honest, I just really want to go away and sneeze and cough. So sorry about that, you're too much information. But anyway, hopefully I'll be back soon. Take care of yourselves. I'll sit there. Why is that going upside down there? That, my counter's upside down.
Yeah, it's very.
See if I can get. Try and get that avenue with the trees. Wanted to take this earlier, but there were people walking up. It's like a proper avenue of trees. It's all the way up to the top of the gardens. Too pretty. Right, go back down middle again. That's ugly on the back, isn't it? That extension.
Yeah. Solid.
Yeah. Don't know why they had to do that. We'll go down this way. I'm going back through to the cafe then.
Yeah. Fancy those?
Yeah. They were doing something with that, weren't they? Anyway, shall we call that a day for that then?